We have two options when it comes to making entities for our games. Add child nodes that represent logic or instantiate that logic as objects inside the script. Actually, both ways are the same, because the logic node is the same script just attached to a node. It provides benefits such as exported variables can be easily adjusted in the editor without even running the scene. But in this case, a unit could have a dozen of subnodes which should be created by Godot, and the more entities we need, more nodes should be managed by Godot. Does it impact the performance, and should we avoid this to have fewer nodes as it possible and stick with the objects? Well, the short answer, no. Only for massive strategies or games where you create massively and constantly a lot of units. Both node and the script are just an objects that will be created by Godot and loaded to the RAM memory for usage. But using the node, we have few additional steps in the workflow. Beside the creation step, the node also should be added to the scene tree when the root entity is created and removed when the entity is freed. To measure the node's impact on the performance, we'll make a few tests. For a test, I will use two types of entities. The first type is made by nodes. Each node is some piece of logic like damage, HP, and so on. The second type is just the same, but instead of using nodes, all the same logic is created inside the root node, less instantiated scripts. In first test, there will be dynamically created and removed the entities from the scene. Dinos are running into the turrets. If they're touched with a bullet or the lava zone, they will be instantly destroyed and recreated from scratch. And the turrets are shooting bullets. In the second test, we will measure the clear creation type. How much does it take to create the entities and add them to the scene, if they are made via nodes or without them. Fun fact for you: if you're trying to make big amount of entities and add them to the sentry at once, like 10,000 or more, the Godot could just freeze. It doesn't crash, there's no error, it's not an issue code, it's just the Godot. The way to solve this is not to spawn them all at once, but to use chunks, like spawn per 100, like this, in few steps. We won't measure the FPS, cause the bottleneck is the GPU, and it depends on the rendered object's complexity. What do matter for us is only the difference between module and node in two extra steps of adding and removing from the scene tree, because at runtime, after being loaded to the memory and added to the scene, they work the same. So in first dynamic scene with 100 dynos, the CPU usage per frame is around 0.1 millisecond. The real difference could be seen in memory usage. It's not that big, but could be crucial in your project. At 500 dynos, the CPU usage is still negligible, but starting from 1000 entities, the CPU usage around 0.5 on average is something we should take in account. In static spawn test, when we create all entities at once, for 100 dynos, we can cut the time around 4 milliseconds using modules in spawn and 2 milliseconds in clearing them from the scene. But for 500 dynos, the benefits become noticeable and reaches around 25 seconds in spawn and more than 100 milliseconds for 5K DNS. Those tests were done in decent CPU and RAM, but I have an old laptop on Intel. You can see the specs of current and the old one. Probably we could see more performance gain on the older devices. And no, the difference is same, closer to an error rather to a real deal. But I discovered an interesting moment. When it comes to the target FPS, you want it to be as stable as possible, no matter what amount are you targeting. 30, 60 or more. This leads to a smoother gameplay experience rather than jumping FPS from 45 to 75. Now look at these two charts. The node approach crashes your stability for big amount of entities that are added and removed from the tree. That is something you want to avoid in your project. Summarizing this all up, you should use less node, preferring modules only in case when your project need to spawn or remove a lot of entities in a short time, like massive strategies. And again, it's not about how many objects you could have. This particular approach affects only the adding and removing from the scene. These two particular steps and won't bring you any profit after the entities being added to the world. So if you don't spawn and remove thousands of objects, don't sweat on this. It won't matter. Hope this was interesting for you and will help you make better projects in Godot. See ya!